Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. It's another great day of business as usual. Joining us, as always, is Jonathan Kirsting, Vice President of all things media and marketing for the Tech Council. And we have a great guest today who I will bring on in just a moment. I want to give a deep shout of appreciation to our long-term sponsor, Huntington Bank, for all the work that they've done. Not just always, but particularly in 2020, they have been, instrumental in making sure that the ecosystem in terms of business and tech and the relationships with the CARES Act, Affordable Cares Act, wrong one, the CARES Act is, being leveraged, and they've done just an incredible job in terms of partnerships with our business community. Also want to extend and notice that 40 by 80 is also involved in the work that we do at the Tech Council, and that's the longitude and latitude of Pittsburgh, and it is the nonprofit arm of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. So we've muted your microphones, and we did that on purpose so that we don't hear any noise in the background, and I think everyone's lucky. My dogs are finally sleeping, so we won't have any kind of havoc wreaking of them trying to entertain in the background. But also, we want to be honorable to our guest today, who is Barret Rea, and I'm going to bring him on in 1 second. We also have a chat, and the chat is for you to ask questions. Ask questions of Barret, and not a time for you to sell your wares or for any kind of personal, promotion or marketing. So on that note, I'm going to jump right in and say I'm thrilled to have Barret Rea, President of PGT Services. And I'm really thrilled that he's here today because I think there's a lot of really important things that his company is doing that builds on the legacy of Pittsburgh and moves us into the future. So good afternoon, Barret. Thank you so much for joining us, and really look forward to talking to you about the innovation that's actually happening at your company. But before we do that, let's talk about you, Barret, and let's find out a little bit about who you are. What's your background, your journey for investment banking to where you are today. So thank you, Barret.
Sure. First, thanks, Audrey, and thanks to Huntington and the Technology Council for having me. I grew up in Pittsburgh in the North Hills, went to North Allegheny High School, and then I moved away for some time. I went away for college, for undergrad. Actually moved back here for business school, went to CMU, and then from there, I moved away for a while. So I moved to New York City to work in investment banking with Merrill Lynch at the time in 2006, and went through the financial crisis in 2008. So went through a lot of change there. We got acquired by Bank of America, and I stayed there through all of that. And actually in 2010, I moved to Chicago. We had an office in Chicago that needed somebody who was my level and kind of in my field. So I was in industrials investment banking coverage. So liked Chicago a lot, had a couple kids there. Had a good group of friends. We were there for 8 years. We enjoyed the town, but it just wasn't home. My wife's from Pittsburgh as well. So we had an opportunity to move back. And we did that. So I came back, joined PGT, became chief financial officer at PGT Truckin. We moved here. We were blessed with our third child. We have 3 daughters, 9 years old, 7, and about 18 months. 18 months later next week. So that's been the journey. It's good to be back in Pittsburgh. We've been here now over 2 years. So. A lot closer to our family now. It's just been, it's good to be back.
Is it? Have you noticed any changes?
Oh, tons of changes. Yeah, I mean, when everything from the career environment here, from with all the technology companies that have moved here and the hiring that's gone on, the restaurants are way better. Been less, taking advantage of less of that, with the lockdowns and everything, but. It's definitely a different town than the town I grew up in, and I'll tell you, when I was growing up here, would go on vacations, or you'd meet people, or when I went off to college, Pittsburgh didn't have a great connotation outside of Pittsburgh, right? People would always kind of say, "Oh, you're from Pittsburgh." It just wasn't all that interesting to them. But now, when I tell them I'm from Pittsburgh, or when I told people, people I was moving to Pittsburgh, it's totally different. Everyone says, "Oh, wow, I was there. I love that city." They all have a story about when they went there, and it was just much different than what they expected, and how they want to go back and that kind of stuff. So the region's definitely come a long way in the last 15, 20 years.
That's great. Well, glad to have you back. So your company, PGT itself, is about to celebrate a major milestone, about 40 years in business. And talk about the history. Give us a little bit of what you know in the 4 decades.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I know. PGT was founded by Pat Gallagher when he was pretty young. So 40 years ago, he started the business. He's still CEO today, and still very active and in good health, and has a lot of energy for someone who started business 40 years ago. So he was in his mid-20s, and he got into a tough business hauling steel for some pretty big companies, U.S. Steel among them. And still a big customer for PGT today. I'll tell you, I think what really separates PGT and led to a lot of the growth was really, and this comes directly from Pat, is the importance of customer service and delivering on relationships that you have with customers, and obviously being able to adapt to changing environments over time. Right, trucking's a tough business. You see companies come and go. So to start something that's been able to grow from one truck to a fleet of roughly 1,000 power units, you don't get that. You don't do that without being able to kind of change with the times, right? It's a much different business than it was 40 years ago, both in terms of the technological environment, the regulatory environment, the way customers approach it, and the amount of competition. So yeah, it's a tough business. That's the history of PGT. It's diverse. It's a more diversified company, obviously, than when it started. It really grew up as a steel-based hauler. PGT now does a lot of building materials, energy-related work, project work. We recently PGT Services, which is the business that I run, we just spun that off as an asset. We're an asset-light transportation intermediary. So. That's been a growth business for PGT. It's business that PGT has some experience and background around in. So, the company turns 40 next year. We've got some, working on planning some events and things like that. And, we're going to be rolling out a new 40th anniversary logo. So you'll see a lot of good things for PGT. And also the company's got a good base that it can build off of and grow off of in the future.
So talk about the services that you provide. That you just launched. I mean, I think you've done pivots, right? We've had COVID, and obviously that's had an impact. We can talk about that, but you've also launched some services.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about PGT Services a little bit. So PGT Services is a new company, but was really the freight brokerage division of PGT Trucking. So. We're a business that we arrange for transportation of goods for customers, but we don't own any trucks. So we have access to capacity from trucking companies that are typically smaller companies than PGT that may not get access to the kind of freight that we can deliver. So that's what our business does primarily. The business grew within PGT over the years. Really, is just managing overflow freight. So PGT would have a number of freight out of particular locations, and could cover some additional loads by finding trucks from other trucking companies, and that's what really the brokerage business kind of grew out of. And it just got to the point where it was a percentage of PGT sales, and it wasn't going to really grow any faster than the overall company was as part of PGT. So we thought it was a good opportunity to separate the company, and we've seen some dividends to come out of that. We've got our own strategy now. We're bringing on our own customers. It kind of gives us some freedom to experiment with things that is part of a bigger company. We got to be more careful about.
So with PGT Services, if people are listening and they're interested, they would contact you directly for their capacity, for their issues or opportunities, and then you would
Contact us directly. Yeah, and what I'll tell you, our space is it's a crowded space. So one of the things that differentiates us is, one, we know flatbed better than other freight brokerage or 3PLs. Our people get the same. We actually, when we hire people, we send them to train in Blairsville, PA, at PGT's trucking, PGT Trucking's training facility. They get the same securement training as incoming truck drivers do. Other 3PLs, they don't do that kind of thing. So we have more expertise in flatbed freight than most other 3PLs. So that's really our specialty. We have a high degree of focus on customer service. I think everybody will say that, but we really do believe in that here. We're not just a bunch of salespeople. We have a lot of operational staff here that actually moves the freight that comes in. So we've got an operational focus and a flatbed focus.
I think there's a question though about some history in there, Jonathan.
Yeah, Ken's always got some great questions, and he heard that you guys were early adopters of compressed natural gas engines. And what has your experience been with CNG?
Yeah, so it's we still have some in operation. It's not been a growth area within the company. The CNG trucks do well, in a route-based type of kind of where they can kind of make a loop and they can fuel. They take a long time to fuel up. I would say that where the industry is really going, as opposed to CNG, is towards electrification. You're seeing that there's a lot of, with the Tesla trucks, probably the most well known. There's a company called Nikola that was been in the headlines a lot lately, but they've got a hydrogen fuel cell type of technology. A lot of the major truck OEMs are moving towards electrification. And I think you're probably going to see that as opposed to CNG and the over the road. I know CNG has been very popular with waste haulers. So the big garbage companies, Waste Management, Republic, have adopted CNG in a big way, and they kind of build their own infrastructure, and it's worked really well for them.
So obviously, as everyone knows, COVID has challenged all of us, right? So talk about how COVID has impacted PGT and how you have pivoted.
Yeah, so it had an adverse impact, immediately in the springtime. We had a lot of customers closed down, both on the asset side and in the non-asset side. So there was a lot less product to shift. We shifted to some other commodities that we maybe didn't do as much of, and tried to recoup as much business as we could that way. We hauled a lot of lumber. There was a lot of demand for lumber in the springtime. You had restaurants rushing to build outdoor seating capacity and decks and things like that. So it was hard to get lumber, and there was a lot of it moving around. So we did more of that. We had challenges. As you can imagine, you didn't know if facilities were going to be open or taking shipment, from day to day. Then things rebounded. Things rebounded over the summertime. There's a lot of demand for steel out of the automotive sector. That's still going on. I think there's just a large industrial restocking that continues to go on. So the demand for freight is really high. The challenge now is finding drivers. A couple things happened. And that's always been a challenge, right, in this industry. That you hear the term truck driver shortage a lot, and that's definitely the case. So a couple things happened that are directly related to COVID. One, truck driving schools shut down in the springtime, so there were fewer new CDLs, kind of coming into the system. A lot of them have since reopened, but they're producing smaller classes with physical distancing limitations and things like that. So there's fewer new drivers that are coming into the system. There's a new federal drug clearinghouse that went into effect at the beginning of 2020. That had nothing to do with COVID, but that's taken some capacity out of the system as well. Now that's a good thing to have kind of more visibility on who's failing drug tests and things like that. But it has limited capacity. So the result of that, we're seeing rates go up, which is it's a good thing for people in the business, but would rather be able to increase the size of the fleet and find more drivers, than just kind of live off rates that are volatile and move around and things like that.
So are you seeing anything like that you think, because I think you are like a bellwether in many ways in terms of the economy. Are you seeing some things that you think are predictions? We're not going to take this as something we're going to bet on, but what kinds of things are you seeing?
The industrial economy is still really strong. The other thing that we're seeing that everyone is seeing is there's the online, the fulfillment and the Amazons and the FedEx. There's an enormous amount of truck capacity that's going towards that business. So whether that's drivers moving, going to work for companies like that, or companies that move a lot of that, or power, a PGT and companies like PGT will, during peak season, will provide power units to haul trailers for companies like that. So there's just been an enormous amount of demand from that side of the business, and I don't know when that's going to change. Obviously it's a big season for them with holiday sales and things like that, but I'm not sure that people are ever going to go back to as much physical shopping and that sort of thing. So I think you're seeing that ripple through the supply chain, and that's having effects on a number of different businesses outside of that.
Well, there is a lot of innovation going on in your industry, both upmarket and downstream. So many of those are happening right here in Pittsburgh, right? In terms of just autonomous trucking, and a lot of them are our members, and they're here building. What do you see? Do you see yourself in terms of innovation and technology? Do you think that is part of your your best practices in terms of services, and what kinds of things? That's A, and then B would be, what kinds of things would you like to tell our community about what you look for in terms?
Yeah, I would tell you that what we look for, we view ourselves as users of technology to make our business better and to differentiate ourselves with our customers. So I think what we're looking for, and there are some great companies here in Pittsburgh that we do business with, we seek to do business with, that I think can benefit us, and that we've worked with both PGT and PGT Services. So we want to work with technology partners. We can bring, our business generates enormous amounts of data, right? It's a very fast-paced business. There are things that our customers demand, where technology can help us, right? So, and I see it in a number of different ways. Visibility is an important issue right now. So dispatching and tracking of trucks, we do have technology that we work with that helps us do that. But there's that's an ever-evolving field, where I think you can get better and better with that. The analogy customers always use is, I can order food on DoorDash and I see, where the driver is, and when he's going to show up all the time. Why can't I do that with your truck? So that's a fair question, right? So we're working with a number of providers to improve our service that way. Actually using, there's a number of machine learning, artificial intelligence type of solutions to help us more efficiently match available loads with available trucks. There's potential for disruption there as well. There are companies that are trying to do what we do purely with a digital type solution. Uber Freight's probably the best known. There's a company called Convoy out there that does some things like that. So we need to be aware of that threat, and be able to take advantage of products that make us more efficient, so that we can be still relevant, right? In the old days, not all that long ago, there are a lot of very small freight brokers that can operate with email and Excel, right? And that's just not the way it's going to be. And so we need to be as close to the forefront of that as we can be. So we were very close to those kind of technologies. There's some areas that are really interesting around safety, ELDs. There's companies here in Pittsburgh, I think you've had them on. Maven's a company that has an ELD. Yeah, this company called Idyllic has a safety solution.
Mhm.
And then you mentioned autonomous driving, locomotion.
Locomotion.
Yeah. So we want to be involved with companies like that, and we know those folks, and there's a lot of just interesting things that are going to happen. And the industry is going to look a lot different in the future.
So, the demand surging that you talked about earlier, and you also have a lot of expertise in flatbed. You have, what has been the impact of digital load matching technologies on the industry itself? So, does it, and the core benefits that it brings to shippers and smaller trucking? Can you?
Yeah. So the core benefit is it can make companies like us more efficient. Anything that more efficiently matches loads to trucks has the ability to increase capacity, bring rates down, make goods move more efficiently throughout the system. I don't know that there's been a quantifiable impact of that kind of technology that I can point to right now yet, but I do think you're going to see that it's just going to make overall supply chains more efficient. Also, the visibility end of it, when customers want to know when the truck is showing up, that enables them to do all kind of things that they want to do, particularly around automating their operations. So if you have a distribution center where you want to be able to unload trucks with autonomous fork trucks, things like that, you need to know with a lot of precision when the truck is going to show up and be able to be unloaded. When a truck's running, if a truck's 250 miles away, there are a lot of factors that go into when that truck's going to show up. Some within the control of the driver and the trucking company, and some just that are unforeseen. So being able to understand and adjust to that in the world that we're moving to is just becoming more and more important.
And so what do you think with the hiatus of training for truck drivers and the changing in some of the laws? You think that will push automation even further? Or do you think that we just are?
Yeah, certainly. It certainly makes the motivation for increasing capacity that much stronger, right? Before there were even ELDs, but before there were electronic log devices, truck drivers kept their logs on paper, and there was just a lot of opportunity to flout the regulations, right? That's a lot harder to do now. The regulations are stricter. That's taking capacity out of the system. The drug testing has continued to take more capacity out of the system. So there's really been nothing from a regulatory front or just from a business innovation standpoint that's brought more people into truck driving, right? It is a tough, difficult job. The pay is okay. It's not great. It's a tough job that a lot of people just don't want to do. It can be a great career, and we've got trucking companies, PGT especially, have good opportunities for drivers, but it's tough to get people to come into this business. There's other impediments. You need to be 21 to drive a truck interstate across state lines. So that when you think about that, somebody coming out of high school who's considering getting into a trade, it's 3 years is a long time to wait, right? They're typically on to something else that they're going to do. So I think the industry loses a lot of people that way. So it's just been there's not been a lot of developments that have increased the available trucking capacity. It's only gone the other way.
I know, it's interesting. Like, I wonder what the average age is of someone who's driving, and if we're going to see that fall, really. Yeah,
across the country, I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's well into the 50s. It's skewed towards an older generation.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe,
and then they're going to retire. I mean, there's going to be we are facing drivers are retiring, and younger drivers aren't moving in. Maybe that changes. Maybe it doesn't, but it's certainly a challenge that the industry's facing.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's so exciting for the companies that you've mentioned, particularly on the autonomy side of the house, that we're going to see some shifts and changes.
Yep.
And I think that'll be an exciting time, because you're starting to get involved in more technology and logistics, not necessarily just driving.
Yep.
So what do you think, what do you think are the biggest opportunities in terms of 2021 that you're excited about in terms of your space and your presence in Pittsburgh?
Well, so we're looking to grow. So we've added staff since we separated from PGT, since we've become our own business. So we brought, like I said, we brought on new customers, and we're building out teams to support that business. I think for us in 2020, we're still we think that the economic environment is going to continue to be strong. We think that trucking capacity is going to continue to be difficult to find, and so that creates opportunities for people like us who have the ability to deliver that capacity. So we feel good about the way we're positioned, and the customer base that we've been able to build. And I mean, for us, it's about growing the business, bringing on new customers, getting more business with the customers that we're with. I would say from this group, a technology-focused group, we're trying to stay on top of the latest innovation. So anyone out there who may be listening, please reach out. I'm more than happy to sit down and spend some time understanding what you guys are working on. We can talk about our operations and how we can work together to develop a solution that works for us and other companies like us.
So will you partner? You'll partner with companies that have young ideas?
Sure. We'll have, we can have developers come in, see what we do, someone who understands, who's kind of related to the business. Like I said, we've got a lot of things going on here every day, and we've got a lot of kind of workflows, processes, and we're looking to automate. We're looking to use technologies to make our operations better and more efficient, so that we can be more relevant to our customers.
So what kinds of roles are you hiring for, and what's it like to work at PGT Services?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the roles that we're hiring for, we're looking for folks who can. So the two things that we're advertising specifically. So capacity sales rep. So that's someone who actually works with the trucking companies that are our partner carriers, and finds new ones as well that can move the freight that we have coming in. So it's an operational role. It's an interesting role for somebody who's kind of getting into the business, right? Because it gives you a good understanding of the way freight moves through the system, and it's fast paced. There's a negotiation type element. So I come from Wall Street. Our environment is a lot like a trading floor, right? It's when you think about it, that's kind of what we do, right? We are, what I mean, we're sort of like we're writing a forward contract a lot of times. So we'll price business, and then we'll go, we'll need to deliver on that at some point in the future, right? So it's fast paced, it's day to day, it's finding capacity on the open market, and it's a very, very collaborative environment. So I'm in my office. We're actually working in the office. We physically distance. So as a result of that, we're kind of running out of space. But there's a lot of communication that happens spontaneously.
Yeah, I miss that. That's great. I miss that kind of collaboration and innovation. So my hat's off to you. I want to thank you, Barret Rea, for being with us. We put the links out there. Everyone, Barret said you could reach out to him. I guess we can find you on LinkedIn. And that might be a good way to stay connected to you. Really know that there's a lot of innovation at your feet right here, Barret, right in Pittsburgh, that have deep capability in logistics, materials, as well as obviously, as you've seen, in AV. So really want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Hope that you're staying safe. And everyone, we will be back here tomorrow. Is that right, Jonathan? We have, thank you for putting up the link. You can use the QR code and you can reach out to Barret. Tomorrow we have Liftoff PGH. That's right. Special guest, Tiffany Kelly, and founder and CEO of Nightingale Apps. And that is part of our partnership with the Jewish Healthcare Foundation. So I want to thank everyone. Thank you, Barret, again, for being with us. Great getting an update on your industry. And we'll see everyone here tomorrow, same time.
Thank you.